everybody, and happy March Caprice! You may or may not know me from last year as that one chick that did the makeup look inspired by both halves of the Gay Blade. And I was thinking about doing another makeup look this year, but then I decided to switch it up a little bit, have a little fun. So while I do make little rag dolls, I cosplay, I draw, and you know I do makeup, but I also bake. It's one of my biggest life passions, but I can never do it that often because ingredients don't come cheap, y'all. But this year I decided to throw caution to the wind and make some cupcakes inspired by my favorite Kingdom Hearts game, Birth by Sleep. But specifically, cupcakes inspired by the Wayfinder trio. That's right, 3 different cupcakes for Terra, Aqua, and Ventus, all in one video. And I tried my best to come up with cupcake and frosting flavors as well as some filling that best fits the characters' personalities. That's one of my favorite things to do sometimes is figure out if this fictional character were a cupcake or some other kind of pastry, what would they be and what flavor? First off, we are going to be starting with our poor possessed himbo that asked for none of this to happen to him, Terra. And for Terra, I wanted to go with an earthy type of flavor because, you know, Terra is Latin for earth. And so I thought, you know what? What about caramel apple? That sounds like a good choice. And because, you know, earth, I decided to make it a little bit crunchy and turn it into a caramel apple crunch cupcake. However, I'm not using nuts because my teeth aren't strong enough to chew nuts. So instead, I'm going to be replacing those with pretzels. So it'll basically be like eating an entire salted caramel apple all in one cupcake. And as for the frosting, I'm going to be giving him chocolate frosting. It was just too easy because his hair is the same color, so why not? Plus, I don't know about you, but chocolate and caramel are just a delicious combo. All the recipes that I'll be using in this video are linked in the description, and without further ado, let's get to it! Also, can we take a second to appreciate the cute little Wayfinder trio themed decorations I made for this? I had to spruce the place up for the occasion, and that's also why I'm wearing this shirt. Turns out I didn't have any Kingdom Hearts t-shirts to wear for this video, so I had to order one really quick. Whoopsie! But anyway, let's go! So for the caramel apple crunch cupcakes, you will need 1½ cups of all-purpose flour, 1½ teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 cup of unsalted butter, room temperature, 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, 1/4 cup of sugar, 1/2 cup of packed brown sugar, 3/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 3 tablespoons of sour cream, 2 large eggs, 3/4 cup of milk, 1 cup of finely chopped apple, a jar of caramel topping, and finally, a bag of pretzels. The twisty kind, not the sticks. And we can't forget the cupcake liners, so I got these lovely orange ones for Terra. I also got color matching ones for Aqua and Ventus, and you'll see those later. Now, it's very important when picking out your pretzels for these that you don't get those stupid weakling little thin pretzel sticks, okay? Because they crumble way too easy and they turn into crumbs and not pretzel bits. You want a nice thick pretzel so that when you crush it, it doesn't turn into crumbs. You have nice little pretzel bits and pieces. We're talking nice and thick ones. Now let's get started. First, you need to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. So first, we're going to combine the flour, baking powder, cinnamon, nutmeg, and salt in a medium-sized bowl and set it aside for later. Now, I know I said you need 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, but the recipe actually calls for 1/8, but I didn't have a 1/8 teaspoon, just had a 1/4, so I just used that, and it was completely fine. So, either way, 1/8 or 1/4 are good. Next, in a large mixing bowl, add the butter, oil, and sugars, and beat it all together with an electric hand mixer for 3 to 4 minutes until it's light and fluffy. And don't skimp on the time. Just gotta beat it. Beat it! Beat it! No one wants to beat it! I hope I don't get DMCA'd for that. Now you can see here that I did have to mash it up with the back of a spoon a little bit. And I did this to help it come together easier because if I just let the mixer do all the work, it would have taken all day. And I had to do this a couple of times throughout the creaming process until it was fully combined, but it helped a lot. And by the time you're done, it should look something like this. Now we add the vanilla and the sour cream and mix until those are well combined. Now the sour cream is going to try to pick a fight with you while trying to get it off the spoon, so you're gonna have to scoop it off with your finger. And remember, always wash your hands before baking, folks. Once that's all mixed together, add in the eggs one at a time, mixing each one until mostly combined. So add one egg, mix until mostly combined, and then add the other one. And then mix that one in too. And don't forget to scrape down the sides of the bowl while mixing. And now we're going to bring back our mixture of dry ingredients that we set aside earlier and add half of it to the batter and mix until it's well combined. Now slowly add the milk and mix until that's well combined too. The batter might look a little curdled, but according to the recipe, that's okay, don't worry about it. Now we add the remaining dry ingredients mixture and mix it until it's just well combined. Do not overmix. And remember to scrape down the sides of the bowl again. And you should have batter that looks something like this. And now we add the finely chopped apple pieces. Now when you go to peel and chop up the apple, I highly recommend not doing this until the last possible second, aka when you actually need them, because exposed apple turns brown very quickly when exposed to oxygen. So when you need them, quickly peel and chop the apple and then gently fold those pieces into the batter. And once you do that, your batter is all done, and now it's time to put them in the cupcake pan. I put 2 of the orange cupcake liners in each cavity because it helps with removal, and the first liner absorbs the oil and grease from the cupcake while the second one stands on the outside and looks pretty. And we're going to fill each cavity about 3/4 of the way full. It took me about 2 or 3 spoonfuls for each cavity. Also, while I'm at it, I should probably let you know that this recipe yields exactly 15 cupcakes, so if you need more than a baker's dozen and an extra 3, I highly recommend doubling the recipe. You know what? I think we're forgetting something. Oh yeah, the pretzels! So before we can add these to the cupcakes, like I said in the beginning, we gotta crush it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this bag, and we're going to smash it with a hammer! JK. Yeah, that's what we're not gonna do, and definitely what you should not do. We're gonna crush these in a much safer way, much less destructive. Also, I didn't have a hammer on hand, but what I did have was that giant glass bottle of vanilla extract, and I thought if I used that instead of a hammer, it'd be even funnier because I don't have a hammer, I'm just using a giant glass bottle. What you're actually gonna do is take a plastic Ziploc bag and fill it with as many pretzels as you can possibly fit in there. And as much as I would like to crush it with a meat mallet, I don't have a meat mallet either, turns out. So instead, I'm just gonna use a very heavy ceramic mug. I'm just gonna start hitting it there until you start getting bits. I poured them into a bowl so you can see them better, but just gently push down on them. Well, not push down, more like gently bang the cup over top of the pretzel bits, and you should get a little something like this. Look at these nice chunky pretzel bits. You can break them down a little bit more if you want to, but not too much because you don't want to get crumbs. You want these nice chunky bits right here. Nice chunky bits. Now that your pretzels are all crushed, we add them to the cupcakes. Start taking bits out of the bowl and stick them into and on top of the cupcake. Don't sprinkle them on because as they bake, they will fall off if you do that. We want them in the cupcake. Also, avoid putting pretzels in the centers because we're going to be digging a hole for the filling in there once it's baked. Also, I caught on camera that I found this pretzel that looks like a K on top of a heart shape. You saw that I was this close to breaking it up, and then I looked at it and I was like, wait, stop. That's so cool, it's like it was meant to be. And now we finally stick these bad boys in the oven and bake them for 15 to 18 minutes or until you can stick a knife in one and it comes out clean. And when you open up the oven, these guys smell delicious. There, look at how good these look already, hot dang. Wish you guys could smell the cupcakes through the phone because I need a scented candle of these cupcakes. I cannot exaggerate how good these smell. And once the cupcakes are completely cooled off, it's time to prepare them for filling. To dig the holes into the cupcake, I'm using what's called a shrimping fork, apparently, but I've always just called it a baby fork because, look at it, it's a baby fork. It's so small. We're gonna carve a hole and then dig out what we can, but not too much. Avoid digging all the way to the bottom, and don't throw away what you dig out. Put it all in a bowl to save for later. You'll see why in a minute. And keep going until every single one of your cupcakes has a hole in it. And once you have all your holes dug, it's time to fill. Bust out your caramel and take some of it and put it in a microwave-safe bowl and warm it up in the microwave for 15 seconds. No more, no less. Now take a spoon and start pouring the caramel into each cupcake. It might take a couple or maybe even 3 spoonfuls. And don't forget to tap the cupcake on the counter so the caramel can fully travel down. Look at that. Yummy. Alright, now remember those cupcake bits you dug out? I hope you saved them like I told you to, because we're going to use them to plug up the holes so that the caramel doesn't ooze out the top when you squeeze the cupcake with your hand to bite into it. Take some out with your hand and wad it up a little bit and then gently push it into the hole. And don't make this weird in the comments, I'm watching all of you. And with that, we are halfway done with Tara's cupcakes. So now, we get to work on the frosting and the decorations. Oh yeah, I said decorations. We get fancy. But first, the frosting. So for the chocolate frosting, you will need 1/3 cup of butter, 2/3 cup of cocoa powder, 2 2/3 cup of powdered sugar, 1/3 cup of milk, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Alright, so first we're gonna melt the butter in a small saucepan over low heat until it's completely melted. I'm gonna let you guys know now that this part takes for flipping ever, so be patient. Once it's completely melted, add the cocoa and stir until the mixture is smooth and thick. Which did not happen for me because I think the recipe's measurements were wrong. I ended up having to add more melted butter into the mixture in order for it to get to that smooth and thick consistency. And even then, I ended up with the consistency of chocolate fudge. But chocolate fudge is smooth and thick, so maybe that's what they meant. Either way, if it's looking wrong to you, don't worry about it. It gets fixed later. This is just one of those trust the process recipes. Once it's fully mixed, remove the pan from the heat and pour the mixture into a medium-sized bowl and let it cool slightly. Then add the milk and vanilla alternately with the powdered sugar to the bowl and beat with an electric mixer until you get your desired consistency. And since I'm going to be replicating Tara's hair with this frosting, I needed it slightly thicker, so I added a little bit more powdered sugar than I needed. Also, when working with powdered sugar, I recommend partially mixing it in with a spoon first, because the speed of the electric mixer will cause the powdered sugar to get everywhere. And partially mixing it in greatly decreases your chances for a huge mess. And your frosting should look a little something like this. Look at that nice stiff peak. Now we're going to put the frosting into a poor man's piping bag, aka a plastic Ziploc bag with a piping tip sticking out of the corner. And speaking of the piping tip, the one I'm using is a 1mm open star tip. Now to replicate Tara's hair in frosting form, we gotta do it in layers. First, pipe 2 lines on opposite sides of the cupcake, going away from the center and extending out, past, and over the liner for the 4 locks framing Tara's face. It's gonna look like a mustache. Then, starting on the outer edge of the cupcake going in, we're gonna do a classic swirl, making sure the end spikes completely upwards. And there you have it, we have successfully replicated Tara's hair out of frosting. And then do that to the rest of your cupcakes, a mustache and then a swirl until all of your cupcakes are frosted. And now we can finally add the decorations! I'll be using these gold star sprinkles that I found at Michael's and just putting them on there. Now I was originally going to do sprinkles and a chocolate Wayfinder charm, but plans for the Wayfinder charm kind of fell through, so it's just going to be the sprinkles. Feel free to add as many or as little as you like. And with that, Tara's cupcake is complete. So now it's time for the glamour shots! Behold, the still shots! I cannot believe they came out this flipping perfect. Oh my gosh! Now let's take a look at the inside, shall we? Also, shout out to my mom for holding the phone for me while I chop this bad boy in half and getting this sick close-up shot. Look at that nice gooey center. I can even see chunks of the apples too. Alright, so you probably saw the glamour shots by now, and now it is time for the all-important test taste. I did take my lipstick off because I have no idea what's gonna happen to it if I bite into this cupcake, so yeah. For the moment of truth. The frosting tastes exactly like chocolate fudge, and I didn't even know that's what it was gonna taste like. I didn't even plan that. This was the first time I was using this recipe. I mean, dang. And I haven't even gotten to the caramel bit yet, so let's see how that goes. I mean, my God, this has got to be one of the best cupcakes I have ever made. So yeah, not gonna lie, this turned out a lot better than I thought it was going to. It came out exactly how I wanted it to, which does not happen often or sometimes at all. Now that we have Tara done, it is time to move on. For the next cupcake we are going to do, we're going to be doing our lovely blueberry mom. You know her, you love her, our queen, Miss Aqua. And in case you haven't noticed, I did do my makeup to match the color scheme of the cupcake. So a new cupcake requires a new look. So allow me a moment to fix this really quick. There, that's better. You like it, huh? I ordered this blue lipstick just for this look right here, because turns out I didn't have any blue lipstick before. And with that out of the way, back to work! Alright, now it's time to get started on Aqua. For Aqua's cupcake, we're going to be going full blueberry. Blueberry cupcake with blueberry cream cheese frosting. And I really couldn't think of any filling that would match it, so this is going to be the only cupcake that doesn't have any filling. And with that, let's get started. So for the cupcake, you will need 1/4 cup of buttermilk, 2/3 cup of fresh blueberries divided, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter softened, 2/3 cup of granulated sugar, 3 tablespoons of light brown sugar, 1 whole egg and 1 egg white, 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil, 1 1/4 tablespoon of cake flour, 3/4 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. Preheat your oven again to 350 and start by taking 1/3 of the 2/3 cup of blueberries and place them in a small bowl. And use a fork to gently smash the berries so that they split open. Large chunks are okay. Also, as you saw, I chopped those berries in half because I thought when the recipe said divided, it meant you divided the berries in half. As I read the recipe further on, I found out that was not the case. But it worked out in the end. Moving on, add in the 1/4 cup buttermilk and vanilla. If the buttermilk is cold, heat it up in the microwave for 10 seconds, no more, no less, to bring it to room temperature before mixing it in. And mix it all together. Once you're done, set it aside for now and grab you a large mixing bowl. Now in this large mixing bowl, beat the butter and both sugars together with an electric mixer on medium-high speed for 1 to 2 minutes. And again, I did have to mash it down and together with a spoon so that it mixed better. And once all mixed together, it should look a little something like this. Now scrape down the sides of the bowl and add the whole egg and the egg white and continue to beat for another minute until creamy. And wait for the egg to incorporate before adding the egg white. Now reduce your mixer speed to low and drizzle in the oil 1 tablespoon at a time, mixing until fully incorporated before adding in the next one. Then turn your mixer speed up to medium-high and continue beating the mixture for 3 to 4 minutes until it's very light and fluffy. Once that's done, reduce your mixer speed again and slowly add in your buttermilk and blueberry mixture from earlier and beat it until it's fully combined. And now we're going to get another bowl out and combine the cake flour, baking powder, and salt. Then we're going to add these dry ingredients to your batter and fold them in on low speed or with a spatula until just combined. Do not overmix. If your batter looks kind of separated, don't worry, the flour fixes it. Finally, toss the remaining 1/3 cup of blueberries that aren't chopped in half with 1 teaspoon of flour, and then gently fold them into the batter. And with that, our batter is complete, so it's time to prep the cupcake pan again. And for aqua, I got these beautiful sky blue cupcake liners. I was originally trying to look for a darker blue, but I really like this color, I just couldn't resist. And again, I added 2 liners to each cavity for easier removal, and now it's time to fill them up. Again, we're gonna fill them up 3/4 of the way full. Because of the blueberry chunks, it's gonna take you a good 3 spoonfuls each to fill up each cavity. So don't be afraid to be a little more heavy-handed with adding more batter in there to even out the batter to blueberry ratio. And now it's time to put these bad boys in the oven. Bake them for 21 to 23 minutes or until you can stick a knife in one of them and it comes out clean. Looking good already. Whew. So now that the cupcakes are cooling behind me, now we can move on to the frosting. So yeah, this is where things started to go horribly wrong. I am not exaggerating when I tell you that everything that could have gone wrong went wrong when trying to make this godforsaken frosting. From not being able to find any freeze-dried blueberries and trying to make sweetened dried blueberries work, to running out of unsalted butter, and humidity ruining the consistency, and it was just a nightmare. And it looked absolutely vile on the cupcake, and it tasted vile, so I threw it away. After having a whole mental breakdown over the ordeal, of course. And after having a good cry about it, I used what I had to make a vanilla frosting instead that tasted slightly better, which will be the recipe I'll be linking to instead of the blueberry cream cheese frosting. The humidity still messed it up a bit, and it's not my best looking batch of frosting, but at least it tastes good. And it also took to the blue food coloring a lot better, which you'll see in a minute. Oh, it also wasn't tasting sweet enough, so I added some fresh honey that my mom got from a beekeeper into the frosting, and it definitely helped. Now, the secret to getting a really blue frosting is not just using a bunch of just blue food coloring, because that can only get you so far. The true secret is adding a little bit of purple in there, but only add a little bit at a time. We don't want to add too much purple, because then it'll go too far into indigo territory, and that's not what we want. I swear it looks bluer than this in real life, guys. It's just the lighting in my kitchen. And now we do our best to decorate with it. Thankfully, Aqua's hair spikes downwards instead of upwards, so at least when the frosting droops, it's supposed to. First, pipe 3 long lines extending a bit over the liner on one side. And on the other side of the cupcake, pipe 3 shorter lines. I tried piping an extra line on top of the 3rd one to give her hair a little more volume to see if that would help, but because the consistency of the frosting is wonky, it ended in abject failure. So yeah, this is pretty much the best I could do. So now you're gonna frost the rest of your cupcakes and try your best to ignore the fact that they look like they have the alfalfa Switzer haircut minus the one hair sticking up. And now we decorate it with silver star sprinkles, which did make the cupcakes look slightly better. Again, add as little or as many as you like. So here it is, all finished, and now we cue the anti-glamour shots, because Photoshop can only do so much. I don't know, maybe I'm being too hard on myself because I was really excited about doing Aqua in particular, and the first half started out so good! Ah, well, at least the cupcake itself sans frosting is still good. Speaking of which, let's take a look at the inside. Because the inside still looks pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. And we even got a nice gushy blueberry bit in there. And now for the moment of truth, the test taste. I'm not gonna lie, I have been kind of dreading this since I put the frosting on, but we'll see. Here goes nothing. Honestly, not as bad as I thought. I knew the cupcakes came out good, but I was worried about the frosting. It is a little too sweet. However, I can deal. The cupcake still tastes great without the frosting. So if you don't want the frosting, you could still eat the cupcake. It's still good. And with that, it is time to move on to the last cupcake of this video, and hopefully the frosting situation will turn out better than this one. And with the next cupcake comes the next look. I'll see you guys in a second. Ah, much better. I should wear green more often. I never get enough chances to wear this sparkly green lipstick, and I love it. Ah! Alright, so now it is finally time to start working on Ventus, our sweet baby boy that did nothing wrong, except maybe possibly murder somebody, but the jury's still out on that one. So for Ventus's cupcake, since Ventus means wind, I wanted to do a light and airy kind of flavor, and what's lighter than an angel food cupcake? I also thought it would be a good idea because angel, goodness, light, and also because it has a counterpart, devil's food, which would be for Vanitas. Fun fact, I actually wanted to do a Vanitas cupcake in this video as a little surprise towards the end, but I didn't know whether or not I could fit 4 whole cupcake recipes / tutorials in a single video that's supposed to be an hour long at the most, so I didn't want to take my chances and decided to cut it. But maybe I might do it later on in a separate video, who knows. However, I still wanted to sneak a little reference of Vanitas in there somewhere. Because he's the darkness that's inside Ventus, I decided to put a chocolate ganache filling on the inside of the cupcake. And for the frosting, we're going to be getting even lighter and even airier. And I'm going to be making a whipped cream frosting and attempting to color it the sandy blonde of Ventus's hair. We'll see how well that goes. So without further ado, let's get to it. For the angel food cupcake, you will need 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1 cup of cake flour, 1 3/4 cup of sugar, 12 egg whites room temperature, 1/3 cup of warm water, 1½ teaspoons of cream of tartar, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Preheat your oven to 350 and in a bowl sift together the salt, flour, cream of tartar, and half of the sugar. Be warned, this part does get a little messy, so you're just gonna have to be careful. And once they're all sifted, they're just gonna be like in a pile separated from each other, so just mix it up with a whisk. Now we gotta crack open and separate all the egg yolks from the egg whites. And try saving the egg yolks for later and cook you some scrambled eggs. Don't be wasteful, especially with the price of eggs right now being a straight up meme at this point. And now we're gonna add the egg whites, water, and vanilla together in a large mixing bowl. And bust out that electric hand mixer again, because we're going to be beating it on low for 2 minutes. Then turn the mixer up to medium speed and slowly pour in the second half of the sugar. Once all the sugar is incorporated, turn the mixer up to high and mix it until you get medium peaks. And I'm going to warn you right now, this part takes forever, so be patient. And by forever, I mean I was mixing for 20 minutes straight, and this is the best I could do in terms of those medium peaks. But it all worked out in the end, so it's fine. Now we're gonna bring back the flour mixture and gently fold in half of it, and once that's incorporated, add in the second half. And with that, our batter is complete, so it's time once again to fill the cupcake pan. For Ventus, I got these lovely bright lime green cupcake liners, which will complement the frosting very nicely once we get it colored. And don't forget, 2 liners in each cavity for easier removal. And here we go again, we're gonna fill them all 3/4 of the way full. Now this batter is different from the other 2 in that it's a very runny consistency. So having a mess all over the top of your pan while pouring the batter into the cavities is pretty much unavoidable, so don't worry about being neat. Once you're done, throw them bad boys into the oven and bake for 18 minutes or until golden and the tops spring back when you touch them. There, look at those, nice and light and spongy, and with the all-important springy tops. And while they're cooling, that gives us time to start on the chocolate ganache filling. And for that, you are gonna need 1 cup of finely chopped chocolate. I didn't have any chocolate bars on hand, so I used chocolate chips, which worked perfectly fine. And 1 cup of heavy whipping cream. Heat the heavy whipping cream on the stove on low until it starts to simmer. And watch it closely because it will go from a simmer to a rolling boil very quickly, and we don't want that. Just a gentle simmer, because a boil will scorch the chocolate. Once it's simmering, add the chocolate chips and let them sit in the cream for 2 to 3 minutes before stirring it. Then gently start stirring it until it all comes together. It'll start looking like melted chocolate. Now if it starts to separate, add some more warm cream in, a tablespoon at a time until it comes back together, which is what I had to do. I also let it chill out in the fridge for a little bit to let it thicken up. Look at that. That's delicious. That looks like a nice big old bowl of chocolate pudding. And now it's time to prep the cupcakes for filling. We're doing the same process that we did for Tara's cupcake, using the baby fork to carve out and dig a hole in each cupcake and saving what we dug out for later to plug up the tops. And now we spoon the ganache into the holes. Remember to tap the cupcake on the counter to help the ganache travel down. And again, don't get weird on me in the comments. I know how the internet gets when you mention the word holes, no matter what the context. And keep going until all of your cupcakes are filled. And now we're gonna plug up the tops with the leftover angel food cake we carved out of the holes. And now that we got the cupcakes filled, finally, for the last time, it's time to move on to the frosting. And for Ventus's cupcake, we're going to be doing a stabilized whipped cream frosting, which, fun fact, doesn't just consist of the whipped cream. And you'll see that in a second. So for the frosting, you will need 8 ounces of softened cream cheese, 1 cup of powdered sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and 2 cups of heavy whipping cream. Now before we do anything else, we gotta prepare the cream cheese. Now this isn't part of the recipe, it's just something I like to do whenever I work with cream cheese to make any kind of frosting. In order to blend it easier when mixing, I like to chop it up into little chunks. Especially if you need it at room temperature or you need it still cold, because the more solid cream cheese is, the harder it is to blend. Now we're going to beat the cream cheese, powdered sugar, and vanilla together until smooth using a hand or stand mixer. Like Bob Ross once said, just beat the devil out of it. And here we go again with mashing it with a spoon. What can I say? It's a foolproof method. And when you're done, it should look a little something like this. Nice, smooth, and creamy. Next, while mixing on medium-high speed, slowly add the heavy whipping cream and continue whipping it until the frosting forms stiff peaks. So whip it, whip it. Whip it good. And when you get there, it should look a little something like this. See how on the spoon it's got those little spikes coming up? That's exactly what we want. Alright, now we have our beautiful stabilized whipped cream frosting, which tastes delightful. Now we have the challenge of coloring it the same golden sandy blonde as Ventus's hair. And we're not gonna do it with yellow food coloring because I don't have any. Instead, we are gonna be using pink and green. Now before you guys freak out, this works. Just trust me on this one. It's a trust the process thing. I got this. So I actually tested this out on some Cool Whip before doing this to the actual frosting so I didn't ruin it. And I started with 2 drops of pink and 5 green because that's the amount it took to get the Cool Whip to the color I wanted. But this frosting is a way bigger amount than the Cool Whip I tested it on, so I ended up needing to double it. And I also ended up needing to add some orange in there to bring out that yellow and make it slightly warmer toned. Also, in this next clip, I genuinely have no idea what happened. I could have swore the bowl was in the frame, but I guess it wasn't, so I'm just awkwardly mixing it on this one corner of the frame. Okay, so this is as close as I could get for the color. It's not an exact shade match, but it's close enough to read as blonde, so it works. And now we attempt to use this frosting to replicate Ventus's hair. Prepare your frosting in a poor man's piping bag once again with the 1mm open star tip. And let's get to it. So just like Tara's frosting here, we gotta do this in layers. We're gonna start by piping 3 lines going away from the center and extending out past the liner. And doing the same thing on the opposite side of the cupcake. And then whichever part you want the front of the cupcake to be, in between those lines, pipe 2 short dollops going downwards for Ventus's bangs. And for the top spikes, you're going to pipe 3 more lines. Wait a second for the frosting to build up before you drag it to the other side, and then drag it upwards. And there you have it. We have successfully replicated Ventus's hair in frosting form, just when you thought it couldn't be done. But seriously though, I cannot believe it came out this perfect. And now you're gonna try and do that again to all of the other cupcakes. And now we decorate them with the same silver star sprinkles we used for Aqua. Feel free to add on as many or as little as you like.
No, my heart belongs to me.
And finally, our Ventus cupcake is complete. He came out so perfect, oh my gosh! Now cue the glamour shots. And now let's take a look at that inside. Look at that, nice, fluffy, and chocolatey. And now that the glamour shots are over, it's time for the test taste. And I did take my lipstick off again because I don't want to turn this cupcake green. Bon appetit! Okay, let's try that again, shall we?
'Cause I'm not laughing.
Okay. Yes. Yes. The combination of the strong flavor of the chocolate ganache with the lighter but also tangier flavor of the whipped cream frosting make for a very interesting flavor combo. I didn't think that was gonna taste as good as it did, but wow. That's actually really good. And with that, our baking journey through Flavor Town has come to an end. This whole thing was a massive undertaking to put together, and I definitely will be chilling out next year for my next March Caprice project. And to anybody that stayed through this entire thing, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. And here's this cute little photo collage I made of the cupcakes all together. Thank you again to the shadowy organization behind March Caprice for having me again this year, and your indispensable service you do for the Kingdom Hearts community. I felt like I was going to a convention again last year. And with that, I leave you. Thank you again for watching, and happy March Caprice, everybody. May your heart be your guiding key.